Well, good morning, Limbo, Kansas, Southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and all other places where you tune in to get your news and views from the middle of America. This Roll the Leader in Times on Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Joining me on the far side, as always, Jim Rice. And we have some special guests here with us this morning from Conestoga. I want to make sure, is it Conestoga Energy?
Energy Partners.
Energy Partners. Parent company, Arcalan Energy, I believe, no?
They are subsidiary.
Subsidiary, Arcalan Energy. I just mentioned that because sometimes if you see some documentation, you might see that and they kind of get interchanged. I just want people to know who we're talking to. The Arcalan, the ethanol plant guys. These are the ethanol plant guys here in Seward County, Tom Willis and Nick Hatcher. So we appreciate them coming in and visiting with us this morning. I want to start out by congratulating Nick Hatcher on being reelected for his fifth?
This would be my fifth term.
Fifth term on the USD 480 school board. So congratulations, Nick.
Thank you.
You're
very
playing
much.
double duty this morning.
I can, yes. Yes.
And the school board challenges. I don't know if you really won or lost last night because you got to keep trying to find solutions. So good luck, and we appreciate your service.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And I want to talk with Tom a little bit here. The ethanol plant, I remember, and maybe Nick remembers this, but I was over at the depot, gosh, you mentioned it earlier, like 20 plus years ago, and there was someone who came in and gave a presentation about ethanol. And I think you were there, Nick. And that's when the first time I heard about, this comes from corn and all of that. And do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Install.
Install? No. I was on the Economic Development Board at that time. It just recently got appointed, and I think I had my first meeting, and the president of Economic Development Board said, hey, we've got this guy that's coming in to talk about ethanol, and he was from Texas, of all places, and we think we need to have a couple of you go. And so they said, Nick, you go, since you're an ag, you get to go. And so I went and listened to this guy talk, and he had a bad cold. And he ended up talking about ethanol, the process, the amount of corn, the distillers, the wet distillers, dry distillers, things like that. And when we got done with that informational meeting, I knew right then and there that we had to do something. I think corn prices were probably probably lower than what they are today. And there was something my dad had told me years ago that he always wanted to, he was a dreamer, and he always wanted to add value to his crops. And so they raised wheat back then. And he was always trying to think of what can we do with the wheat kernel or, add value. Well, that stuck with me. And since I was farming corn at the time, I thought, hey, this is something that might work. I mean, we've got corn here, we've got irrigation, and we've got abundance of cattle and feed yards and things like that. And so it just seemed to line up that, Liberal Kansas, with the resources we have here, might be a perfect spot to build an ethanol plant. And so we started that process of putting together a group of local investors to give us some startup money. And then once we did that, we were able to hire some consultants. And once we did that, then we were able to put a plan together and go out and start putting money together, raising money, talking to investors, talking to construction people like the ICM people in Colwich here. We're fortunate that one of the very best ethanol manufacturers or plant manufacturers or technologies are here in Kansas. So we felt comfortable talking to them and felt like these are going to be people that we can trust and lean on to lead us down the right path. And so here we are 20 some years later with a huge ethanol plant, one of the largest one in the state of Kansas. And we're very proud of that. We've brought a lot of jobs to our community. We've added a lot of value to the ag world, and we're very proud of that as well. And that was one of the that was one of my things that I wanted to get done, accomplished, was adding value to ag products in our community and for our farmers in the area.
Sure. I can't remember when during one of your celebrations on how many gallons you produced, but I don't remember if you guys put it together or we put it together, but we talked about how many gallons fit in one of those train cars, and we had how many train cars, and it could go from Liberal to Kansas City and back if that was one solid train. That's how those cars of ethanol, that's how much ethanol that you guys had produced at that time.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing how much you produce. So maybe, Tom, tell us a little bit about the process. Some people may not know that the corn is still used for feed. You guys pull what you need off of it, and it still goes out for feed. But maybe you can tell us a little bit how this all works and where you guys source all your corn and that kind of thing.
You bet. Well, first of all, thanks for having us, Earl. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. But yes, corn, and it's one of the ethanol industry kind of took off in 2006. There was this rumor out there, or that it was food versus fuel, that we were taking food away from people and starving kids to make fuel, which nothing is further from the truth. Basically, what we do is we convert within a kernel of corn. You have protein, you have starch, you have fat. What we do is take the starch out. Now, why is that significant? It's significant because the next best use for corn and sorghum in our area is to feed cattle, feed livestock. Cattle in of themselves with a rumen cannot utilize starch. So any starch that goes through goes out the back end and ends up going out on the field. What we do is pull all that starch out, grind it, make a slurry out of it. We convert the starch to sugars, and then the sugars get converted to alcohol. Actually, just like you would drink. We're just a huge still, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Just a huge still.
It looks like it in there too.
I would.
There's a spot where you can pull a pure sample, and I just happen to know where that spot is, but
I would not recommend it.
you do not want to drink it. You do not.
It burns.
Rumor has it.
Pretty potent.
We're asking for a friend. So anyway, we pull that starch out, and then what is left is the fiber, which is and fat that comes out of it, which creates a very high protein, very high energy feed that the feed yards love. And I smile because when we opened this up in 2006, that people saw us build in 2007, we had many feed yards that were like, you guys are going to screw our market up. You're competing with us for feed. This is no good. I remember those conversations. Mm-hmm. I want to roll ahead from 2006 to 2009. Our industry went through kind of a washing out period. There was a time when everybody thought they would have a Walmart and an ethanol plant in their community. Uncle Sam won, but the industry said we don't need an ethanol plant on every
Street corner.
Street corner that's out there. And so during that phase in there, lost my train of thought.
The realignment, so some of them didn't make it.
They didn't. They didn't make it. We were one of the last plants to get. Well, I was talking about the feed yards. The feed yards then, when they saw how the industry was in trouble, now the phone calls were, hey, you're not closing down, are you? You're not going to take my feed away from me. You're not going to do this, are you?
Yeah.
Please tell us you're going to be in business. And why was that important? Because some of this sorghum and corn that was being exported, by being able to take that starch out and keep the things that they need, actually took us from a deficit area to a neutral area. And the livestock industry has since embraced us with that. So we're really excited about it. A little bit, can I indulge a little bit of some of the things we're doing?
Absolutely.
For people that don't know, we do produce alcohol. Out here we produce about 115 million gallons a year. To your amount we produce, we're approaching 2 billion gallons that we produced out here. When we started back and actually opened our door December 24th, of 2007, we had one market, and that was going to New York, which you don't have to be much of a mapologist to understand that's probably not the most natural move in the world to go for all of the Corn Belt. But that was our market. Roll the clock ahead to today. We ship product to Canada. We ship product to Mexico. We ship product to Europe. We ship product to Central America. We ship product to California. And at times we've shipped it down to South America, all over. One of the things that, the reason that we go all over the world is we have developed through all of our processes, the opportunity process to create a very low carbon ethanol. And in today's world of worrying about climate change, whether you believe in it or not is irrelevant. People do, and there's a demand for our product. We are the lowest, I'm trying to think the right word without getting inside baseball. We produce the lowest carbon intensity alcohol in the United States. There's 150 plants out there. Nobody has a lower CI than we do. That gives us the opportunity to go all over the world. People want the product that we have. Part of the reason that we're able to do that is the farming practices around here. You know, this is not the, and I'm going to deviate here. When I moved here in 2006, I thought I'd be here 5 years, and then I'm from Idaho, and then back to Idaho. Well, that was 20 years ago. I now have a son that's moved his family here. We're very much invested in this community and what we're doing there. But
I want to add real quick, just so people know, you talk about being alcohol, but it's ethanol, and it's to burn in fuel for vehicles, other sources. Yes. So when you see E10, E15, E85, these are the E guys that provide that 10%, 15% of a gallon of gas. So wherever you're going and pumping gas and you see that, and that replaced, and you guys may have to help me with this, but there was some sort of additive gas you used to have to have.
MBTE, and it's a long word that I've forgotten since
just
the
figure
time.
MTBE.
But my understanding is a drop of that on the ground could contaminate 3 Olympic-sized pools of water. So they were looking for ways to get rid of that.
For 1,000 years.
For 1,000 years.
Put that in there. One drop in a Olympic-sized pool would contaminate it for 1,000 years.
So ethanol replaced the need for MBTE.
As an oxygenator.
And that helps with the process. Also, you talk about the carbon. You know, when a car puts off carbon monoxide, ethanol mitigates that.
Yes.
Because the only output of burning ethanol is water and what's the other? It's hydrogen, I think. But it's neither of them are harmful to the environment. I mean, it doesn't put off carbon monoxide. I remember when you guys opened, you had an engine running inside, and that was okay. You wouldn't run an engine inside a closed space if it was a gas engine. But you guys had an ethanol engine, and it was fine because the emissions aren't bad. So I'm just trying to make sure people understand what ethanol is, and it's a fuel that you go to any gas station in America, and you're going to be able to get some ethanol.
They use that to boost the octane in your gasoline so that it has more power. So they removed the MTBE because that was a known carcinogen, and I think there were probably going to be a tremendous amount of class action lawsuits against refiners and oil and gas companies that were refining gasoline and putting MTBE back into it. So to mitigate that, ethanol was the most logic choice. I mean, water degrades it, sunlight degrades it. I mean, you can drink it. I mean, it's not a bad product at all, and it helped clean up several cities in the United States. Denver was one of them. LA was one of them. When they started mixing ethanol into their fuels, their smog levels went down tremendously, and it was all because of blending ethanol instead of MTBE.
I remember that yellow cloud in Denver because we lived up there, for a while, and over, especially against the Front Range, there was always a yellow cloud hanging over there. And today there isn't anything even near that.
Yeah.
And it's just because
One of the
fuel.
challenges we have along that lines is that if we ever have a fire out there, ethanol or alcohol is so pure that when it burns, there is no flame. You don't see it.
Yeah. Yep.
And people that get burnt in it is because there's a fire, they can feel the heat, and a lot of times they run into it because they can't see it. That's how pure it is. The only color you would get, which would be a yellow or a blue, is impurities in the air, but it's not in the product itself. So we're proud that we've been able to do something that A is good for the environment, B has given us, as Nick articulated a little earlier, the opportunity to add value and ship it all over the world. And we truly have become an international player. There's only one other company that exports more ethanol than we do from a company's size. So we're very, very, very proud of that.
So what I've seen you as here locally is a stabilization, because you give a market to buy the corn. Even when prices have been subverted, you kind of have stabilized the price here locally by giving a price to buy that corn. You continue to help the livestock, which is, if you think about it, a cow is a little bit value added. You got to grow the corn and then feed the cow, and then the cow gets turned into steaks. You guys take that corn before it does that, pull that starch out, create another product, and then ship that around the world.
We actually create a couple of products, Earl. In a bushel of corn, when we produce it to alcohol, 1/3 of that bushel actually becomes alcohol. 1/3 of that becomes CO2, just like when you would pour a beer or something like that, the bubbles come up. 1/3 of it is that. We capture that, and there's only, I think, 2 other plants. I think there's others that are going to be, but as it stands today, 2 other plants up in North Dakota that we capture it, and we use it for not only enhanced oil recovery. We take the product here down into Texas from that perspective, but we also sequester it, which, again, going overseas, they're very concerned about climate change, and it's very important to them that we do that. A couple of the other things that you guys might find interesting, we're one of the few companies out there that can trace our gallons back to the farm. When you go to Canada, they say, hey, we want to know where this alcohol came from. And we have to basically produce certificates that said, hey, it was raised on Hatcher Farms, or this or that. Sounds simple, but in today's agricultural world, as people get big, being able to have that traceability is very important. And then the other third is distillers, which we mentioned when we go out. So I guess what I'm saying, you go out to National Beef and they say they capture everything but the moo, right? We capture everything. That kernel of corn, or sorghum, there is not 1 ounce that is not used in some process.
Yeah, I think, what do you call that, mash, when it goes back out to the
Distillers grains. There's a wet and there's a dry. We can dry it. We prefer to sell it as wet product because it's just a great feed additive for feed yards and dairies.
Happy
in the area.
cows.
Yeah.
Oh, you
the cows to be happy.
don't even know. I have a cow or 2, and when we go out to feed them distillers, and I've taken people up there, said, they're a half mile away. All you see is udders going back and forth and tails in the air.
Here they come.
They're on their way. It's
They
dinner
love
time.
it. They love it.
So let's talk a little bit about, you built this plant so that we could do this in our county. You built this plant, and I've toured it. Like I say, it's got big stills, if you want to call them that, and all the equipment it takes to make this happen. There's a very scientific process to turn it, to withdraw that piece out of the corn. And I remember back in 06, 07, it was Governor Sebelius at the time, but Kansas said, you know what? Businesses are telling us they're not locating in Kansas because we're taxing equipment. We've got to change this. So they made a change at the state level to say property tax is going to be property, but personal is going to be excluded moving forward. And this is where we get to where we're kind of at. But you built this big facility, you spent a ton of cash so that we can do this process, provide jobs. We haven't talked about how many jobs you provide, but you guys provide a lot of jobs. And we haven't even talked about the expansion of Sapphire yet. We'll get to that too.
And we're expanding the plant itself. So
Yeah, the physical plant. So you had this plant, you operated just like everything else, we got to determine then a value. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about building this plant, what the plant encompasses, and how do we get to a value?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, so to start up with, first the county had given us a 10-year abatement. Okay.
Which we're very thankful for.
We're very appreciative
It
for.
was pretty lean in those first years, you know.
And that's what those abatements are for. That could be why some of those others didn't make it.
Yeah.
Could
so
very
the county
well.
this has been overall has been a great experience dealing with the
were a
county
part
and
of
the
What was that?
Tax abatement.
local residents on
Yeah.
it with that. But our abatement ran out, and we got an appraisal from the state or from the county. We looked at it and we disagreed with it. You know, when they came in with this personal versus real, and I'm not getting inside baseball, but there was a three-pronged test that was supposed to be applied as to whether it was real personal. We applied that. We had some consultants come in and apply it, and they said the valuation that you're getting from the county is much, much higher on the real property than what it should be. So, like any other taxpayer, and I think this is important as we talk, we didn't do anything, any venue or any avenue that's not available to any taxpayer. We said, hey, we don't agree with the way our taxes were calculated, and we paid them. Very important. We paid under protest, but we paid every penny that we were assessed under protest.
And continue to do so.
And continue to do so. So we worked through that. We had initial discussions with the county. They had a number in mind, we had a number in mind, but by that time it was already going through BOTA and some of the things that were there, so we said, hey, we'll just see what happens with it. And we let that play out. We currently, we went through BOTA, and right now it's in the district court being appealed, and we're waiting to see what we have there. But again, nothing different than any other taxpayer has that ability to appeal, and that's what we've done.
Which is the same for anyone on their home.
Yes.
If you got your new statement, you said, how did my house go from this to this? You can go appeal that. You pay it, but you say, but I don't think that's right. And then a process kicks in. Mm-hmm. And it can get to the Board of Tax Appeals, and the Board of Tax Appeals will listen to the taxpayer. They'll listen to and how you get to your number. They'll listen to the county, how they get to their number, and then they'll say, well, we think this is the number. Mm-hmm. You can accept that, or you can say, you know, I still don't think that everything's being accounted for. Then you can go to the next step, which is go to district court.
One thing I want to make sure is, you know, when we decided to build that plan here, it was to make our community and our county better. Bring industry, bring jobs, we're very proud of that. And we still have that mindset that everything we do, we're doing it to make where we're at a better place to live.
Well, that's because you're buying local corn, you're employing local people. The best product, I don't care where you're at, is something that you can create and sell to somebody else somewhere else. It's called an export. You want to be an exporter. I don't care if you're an exporter of energy. We export beef. We export wheat. We grow, if all we did was grow enough for our own needs, would fail. You have to be an exporter to succeed in this world. What's the big thing with China and America? Exports. Who's going to take more products from where? And if you can't export, you're sunk. You guys are creating billions of gallons of an export, which sends ethanol out and revenues in. And that's success. That's what anybody wants. They want to be able to, you know, when they're talking about these drones plant that may be coming, what's that? Build the drone here, but you sell the drones to somebody else. It's an export out of the county. You can think exports out of the country, but export out of the county is still a good thing. And that's what you guys do. You're buying local product, you're hiring local people, and then you're exporting a product that the world needs and importing the revenue to Seward County investors, to Seward County people, to Southwest Kansas people.
Yeah, we do have other owners, and we do have stockholders that we have to answer to.
Exactly.
And so I can tell you in my position as chairman, there is a certain amount of fiduciary responsibility we have to our stockholders, and to make sure that they receive a return on their investment. So You know, the process that we're talking about is for anybody in the county.
Yeah, we haven't circumvented. I think that's important. We're availing ourselves of an avenue that is available for somebody that says, I don't think we're being appraised right.
And it doesn't matter if you have a multi-million-dollar plant or a $20,000 shed. You can appeal that.
That's correct.
And you can say, I want this revisited. That's the right of everybody in Kansas. This isn't unique as far as that goes.
We feel like there was an interpretation one direction, and we felt like our interpretation was completely different. And thank goodness we're able to do that in our country, have disagreements and be able to come back together and figure out what the right methodology or what the right number could be.
And I want to emphasize something along what Nick said. We want to pay our fair share. We have paid our fair share, almost $24 million in taxes up to now. We will continue to pay our fair share. But I don't think we're unique. Nobody wants to pay a penny more than what they have to. And when it's all said and done, court comes down and says, this is what you pay, that's what we're going to pay. And I don't want to say happy to do it, but we understand we have a responsibility to the county. The county's been very good to us. Along jobs, direct jobs in this county that we produce is somewhere around 75, but that's not the miracle in this. It's the indirect jobs. It's the 300 or 400 other people that one layer down that support our plant, that do maintenance on our plant, the truck drivers that bring us the corn in. Now this year being an exception, so I got to be careful what I say here, but if you look over the last 18 years, we've taken the corn basis and the milo basis up 25, 30 cents for our local producers. Maybe that's an extra tractor they're able to buy. Or this year, maybe they're actually able to pay their bills.
Make a payment.
Yeah, make a payment. But
I'm sure Jim, who was in ag over there, you wouldn't need an extra 25, 30 cents.
Well, you know, you'll take whatever you can get, and that would be appreciated, you know, especially with market prices the way they are today. You know, they're just like you said a little bit ago, they're about like they were 20 years ago when you started all of this.
Yeah.
One of the things, new programs that's going to be coming, and we're waiting for, if we get the government back open, a little more guidance, is the opportunity through some of the farming practices that are considered to be carbon friendly, environmentally friendly, the opportunity to add maybe another 25 or 30 cents a bushel back to our producers that produce with us. We're going to be rolling that program out for next year. So we are proud of what we've been able to bring back to the community. We have supported Seward County Community College. We have supported the high school. There's a lot of groups that come to us, and because we want to give back. That's our mantra. We want to make money, but we want to be able to give back. So right now we find ourselves waiting on district court. When that ruling comes down, then that'll be what it'll be. In the meantime, it's the message I would like to deliver, guys, is number one, we do pay taxes. For some reason, there's a rumor out there that Conestoga doesn't pay property taxes. And I can tell you, $24 million. That's what we paid.
Yep, about $3 million a year for the last
yeah.
8 years.
There's-
and you have to pay, just so they know, you have to pay that to keep your case moving forward at the highest rate, the rate that the county said
Yes.
that they believed it should be. While you're appealing all this, you still have to pay that highest rate.
Yes.
So you're paying not just taxes, you're paying the highest rate in this scenario.
That is correct.
We're also willing, we understand when this thing gets all said and done, that it could create some hardship on the county. And we're more than happy to sit down with the county leaders and say, how do we mitigate this to where, yes, we want to be treated fairly, but how do we mitigate this so that it doesn't, we minimize the burden on the schools, on the city,
county, the
on
college.
the county, and the college, and all that.
So
We're
are you
happy
willing
to-
then, are you saying that you're not going to ask for one check?
No,
No,
I don't think that would be fair.
We're waiting for them. We have not met with them, and I hope to do that fairly quick. But we're more. I'll send this message on your program today. We're more than happy to sit down with the county leaders and say, how do we make this work for both of us?
So you're willing, over time, you're
Yes.
willing to look at a long-term approach.
Longer term.
We're open to anything, actually. I mean, if it makes sense, then so be it.
Bring it to us.
Yeah, bring it to us and we'll look at it. I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to be able to sit down and talk about it and figure out what's best for us, what's best for the county, and we're sympathetic to the county.
Well, we're taxpayers,
We're
Nick.
taxpayers, that's right.
We
you know.
both pay property tax.
Yeah, well, and Nick is also one who understands that on the school board, that's where the money comes to keep the school board. The school's operational is property tax.
Absolutely.
And so, it's not like you're unfamiliar with this or that what it takes to operate. We're not unfamiliar with the county. You talk about 24 million. I was looking up until this coming 26 budget, the past couple of years, the ad valorem taxes to the county total was like 11 million. Well, in 8 years, you've paid enough taxes that you could have funded 2 full years of all of the county tax. Now, I know your money gets split up among other entities, but if you would have put it all in just that, 24 million would have paid for the 22 of 2 solid years of everything. That's how much you guys are paying. It's not that you're not paying at all. You're paying enough that you could have covered the entire tax bill for Seward County, the Seward County part of it, for 2 solid years. You could pay to everybody's the worth of everyone else, every homeowner, every other business owner. So you're paying I'll say a boatload on this show. You're paying a lot of taxes on this.
Well, we are, and like I said, so that's one message that I think Nick and I would like to deliver to the community.
Yeah.
Is that we have paid, we will continue to pay whatever our fair share.
But that's what one of the things that we're proudest of is we brought an industry into our county, and we expect to pay taxes. I mean, we got help in the beginning, which thankfully we did, but at some point, we have to pay our fair share, and that's all we're asking is just make it a fair amount.
Right, and you talk about the 3-pronged test. The things, I've seen both of your guys' filings, and it's like 4 pages and I mean, it's going to take experts to know, but when I look at that stuff, and I think about our own business here, I'm thinking, I have a press.
Yeah.
That press is personal property. It's not part of the building. I have a CTP unit, that costs several $100,000. It's got wheels. I mean, it can be wheeled out to somewhere else. The questions that are being determined, and I think your case is being used as a test case for the entire state of Kansas. What can appraisers, and I'm not blaming our local appraiser, they had to bring in somebody that's an expert in this, but everyone's
There's enough
got
vagueness
experts.
in it. It's important to say that. We're not the only county that has struggled with this.
Right.
Because as written, there's enough being vague in it that there's a lot of different interpretations of what it should be.
Yeah, gray area as far as what's actually a piece of a building. I used the escalator test. An escalator is a machine, but that building doesn't function without that escalator. You could have put a stairway there, and that clearly was a part of the building. If you replace a stairway with an escalator, that's a part of the building. But what I listened to testimony the other day, and maybe you guys heard it too, I was listening to one of the testimonies up at the state, and they were talking about if it's used to create the product, it's personal property. So that's pretty easy to understand that. If it's used to produce the product, it's personal property, and that means it's not taxed. The building is taxed. The real estate is taxed. Everyone can understand
Which we
that.
agree.
Yeah, 100%.
We agree with that.
100%. But if it's used to produce ethanol, whatever that is, if it's a tube, if it's a vat, if it's, name it, the thousands of things, that list is a long list of what it takes. I'm just a common guy, but I can see the difference between a piece of a building and something it takes to produce that product that you guys produce. And that's where we're trying to figure this out. And again, no one's a villain here. Everybody is just doing what the system allows to happen. Someone sets one value, someone says, I'm not sure about that. I don't care if you get pulled over and the officer says you were going 25 and a 20, and you say, are you sure about that? You can question those things, and then you go to courts to get it all worked out. This is civil. This is just saying we disagree on the price. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, we're not upset about anything that's gone on.
This is not personal.
It's not personal
at all.
And, you know, we feel like we've followed the process that we can follow as taxpayers, and we're good with that. And I just hope everybody else understands that we're not the villain here. We're just doing what we think is right for our company and right for our stockholders.
Sure.
Can I interject something here? Because this is another message I'd like to leave. For some reason, there's a perception out there that the total 13 mil assessment that's going up was created by us. And nothing could be further from the truth. If you actually
totally
look
false.
at it, 2 mills could be attributed to us.
Right.
And the fact that we're willing to sit down and negotiate and say, hey, how do we mitigate on this? I'm not even sure it would be that. But I'd like to leave that for the people that are watching this to say, you know, from that perspective of it, this tax increase that's coming is not Conestoga's fault. We did not do that, and so.
No, and I'd like to since you mentioned that, I'm going to do a real quick piece of math here, but because I don't like even saying that it's attributable to you. It's actually giving you your money back that you already gave them.
Well, that's the way we view it. Yes.
You already gave it to them, you know. So just your $3 million a year, if it was at the rate of the county, you pay 12.5 mils of the collections. That's 12.5 mils at your $3 million rate. If you were to divide that by what a mill brings in, that's 12.5 mils that you guys are paying right now. So even if you said, but 2 of those should be a refund, you're still 10 mils. You see what I'm saying?
To the positive.
Of that they're keeping,
Yes.
of that is going towards the county. You are funding beyond your share right now until we get a number of what the district court says that the actual value of all of that out there is. And again, I don't care if you had a $20,000 shed, you can challenge that. If you have a multi-million-dollar factory, you can challenge that. It's the right of every citizen. We'll see this process right out, but tell me if I'm understanding this right. There's really no need to tax everybody to pay you guys back because you're saying, we'll
work
work
with
on
you.
it. We'll work on it. We'll spread it out over time.
Yes.
You don't need the money in the bank today.
Whatever the county decides they want to do, we're not asking the county to do anything. We're not telling the county to do anything. We're just putting ourselves in a position that we will sit down and we will discuss and talk about whatever it is.
Try to create a win-win.
Absolutely. We're not trying to hand tie anybody from not doing something or doing something, either or. We're just putting ourselves as good citizens in our county, good business operators in our county, and we're gonna do the right thing. We have done the right thing.
I think we have, yeah.
And so it's not. We're just waiting for a decision to come down from district court, and once that happens, then we'll have something that we can actually go to the county and talk about. Continue moving forward.
And we hope they'll visit with us.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to wait for that decision. You can start negotiating now, isn't
On
that
the,
right?
on the 18, 19, 20,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll throw it out there on the air. We're waiting for a phone call. You can call Nick or you can call myself. 620-655-8228. That's my cell number.
Are you sure you want that out there?
But just so that the taxpayers can feel a little at ease today from what you guys are sharing, that you're still paying $3 million a year until this gets settled.
Yes.
Over 3,
Yeah.
like 3.3 to 3.4.
And then whatever that is, we'll live with it.
If it comes in later and they say it should have only been 2, 2.5, 1, whatever they say, then that difference, you're saying whatever that refund is going to be, you don't have to write that check tomorrow. We'll work on it. We'll see how to work that out. You know, if you look at the DCP plan, they worked on it as future credits. There's all kinds of options you guys have.
Yeah, there's so many different ways of tackling this that we're not concerned.
No.
I mean, we know we'll get to resolution at some point. I mean, I just want to make sure that the community knows that it's not in our ball court right now. We're waiting on a decision. we're willing to do whatever it takes, to sit down, talk, listen, negotiate. It doesn't matter. We're not the bad guys here, and the county.
Well,
and the county's not the bad guys here
No.
either. We're just following a process,
as the county is.
as the county is as
So-
well, and that's where it's at. Bottom line.
Here's one other little piece of anecdotal information I can leave with you. Over the next 3 years, we're going to be investing over $150 million in that plant out there.
Is that the Sapphire side?
The Sapphire and two or three other projects that we're working on that will put us to where we are the elite of the elite in domestic ethanol production, because we want to hit more of our export markets. My point behind that is if we did not think Seward County was a good place to do business, I would not go to Nick and say, Nick, let's stroke a check for $150 million to reinvest.
That's right.
We wouldn't do that. We'd go somewhere else. We're not. We're doing it here. That's our commitment to the county. That's our commitment to the citizens around here. To Nick's point, we live here. I got kids, grandkids. I guess, like it or not, I'm Southwest Kansas by choice. When I go home sometimes, I'm like, damn. But we want to see a vibrant, growing community and hopefully some of the businesses that support us will want to locate here too. So there'll be an ancillary effect on economic growth. But the point being, we wouldn't do that if we thought this was a bad place to do it. We absolutely wouldn't.
No, you're right in the right place. You're doing the right thing. This is what we talk about on the show all the time. How do we take what we grow? We get pennies for the grain. Why can't we turn that into cereal or into taco shells or into tortilla chips? There's all kinds of things. You know, that's that adding the value. That's where the profit's at. It's the next level stuff. We need more next level stuff. You guys are a next level product. You guys put out something that you take a raw material like a grain and you turn it into ethanol and you still feed the cows with the grain. No one's out here.
And we used it for enhanced oil recovery too, so we're bringing in depleted oil wells, we're bringing oil back up with it.
Hey, when I used to own the theater, we had to buy CO2. I mean, the truck comes, hooks the pipe in, pumps it in, because that's what goes into all the pop. I mean, everyone knows that.
Well, if you need some, come see me.
I don't own the theater anymore. We sold out to Mitchell. He's doing a great job. I love what Mitchell's doing. Great theater now. But you're right. There's other spin-off products that you guys are doing out there off this thing. And I'll say one thing that you're doing great for the environment is when I pull in and I smell the plant. You put me in Grandma's kitchen growing up because I smell that that like the bread that she used to have coming up. It's that, you know, they're not every agricultural smell is a good one, but the ethanol plant is a great one. I mean, that's a great smell of coming home. You know, when we're coming back from a ball game somewhere and we're driving back and you cross over out there and you smell, it's like, oh, that's my I'm coming home smell.
Yeah.
I'm close to home now, and it's a great smell. So. Whatever, I don't think yeast is involved out there, but it smells. Am I wrong on that? Is there not a great odor that comes off of that?
Oh, I think it's fabulous.
They talk about the smell of money. Maybe isn't always the purest, but that's a good smell of money right
Yes,
there. That
yes,
smells good.
yeah.
And again, providing the jobs, shipping this out. I see Conestoga in support of Seward County Community College. You see the logo involved with a lot of things out there. I see it at Liberal High School. I see anytime someone's asking, hey, can you sponsor or help with this? I see that Conestoga has always been helping. I don't care, traveling teams, everything I've seen. You guys have been the kind of corporate partner. You know, I always say when people are spending public money, I'm like, why are we using out of area roofers or out of area purchasing vehicles? Yeah, because I'm like, they're not going to contribute to the local Boy Scouts. They're not doing any of that. But these are the guys that do. These are the guys that help all of that stuff make Liberal a better place, quality of life for everybody. And so I just want to say thank you on behalf of the community. I mean, you guys have in a way, I feel like been put in the position of the big bad corporate guys. The facts are you're providing jobs, you're providing stability through the agriculture market out here by having a place to sell the grain, get the grain back out to the cows, and exporting a product. National does it every day, and we love it every day. Every truck you see, when I met my wife in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we took a bus ride to New York City, there was a national carrier's truck. I said, wait, watch the flaps at the end of this. Liberal, Kansas. That's my hometown. They're going to deliver a truckload of beef to somebody up here in New York that's going to be selling steaks from Liberal, Kansas. That's what we do. We're feeding the world. We're powering the vehicles across the country and beyond.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
In a few years, we're going to be powering commercial jet fuel. Our Sapphire project, which actually adds in corn stover. It's cellulosic. In other words, it's not corn, it's not milo, but it's the stover that comes from it. We have a process, we're going to be developing that, which will have a very, 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 very environmentally friendly fuel that we produce with that. We have foreign countries that actually have come to see me that have commercial airplane fleets that say, hey, we're afraid we're not going to be able to fly over Europe anymore if we don't hit a certain, I'm going to call it carbon score, but pollution standard, for lack of a better word. Can you help us solve that? This is countries now, not a company, countries saying, Conestoga, have you got something that can help us? And yes, we do. So our future is so bright as we add another. Right now, stovers either used to put nitrogen back in the ground or maybe graze cattle on. Both good things, but it's not the highest best use of it. By being able to take that and extract the sugar out of the cellulosic piece of it and make a fuel for airlines, think of the value that brings. So we're just super, super excited about the role that Conestoga will play on the world stage.
I think that's the difference between a government-funded project and a privately funded project. If you look at that large plant in Hugoton, which is basically government-funded to do what you're talking about, using the straw or the stalks or whatever. That never did really get off the ground, and they spent over $400 million in taxpayer money to do that. And now then you're taking that same process and going to make it work here.
Well, it's going to be a different process.
Well, yeah,
that one
but,
failed.
Yeah.
Hopefully ours will work, but
good
yes.
point.
But that's the difference, I mean, it was just dumping money over there, and I don't know that they really knew what they were doing. But
well, I looked at the trade magazine when you guys bought Sapphire, and that you bought the technology, but you bought the intellect of the people that were on the right track doing this the right way. Is that correct?
We brought it all over. We were not interested in the technology if I didn't have the people that knew how to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good if we sit here and say, well, we got this, now what do we do with it? Like the dog that catches the car. So we wanted to make sure that, and we've got some extremely talented scientists that were working on it.
Give you another example, because I got to work in a Disney example or it's not a good show. But Pixar, everyone knows Pixar, but Pixar was started by Steve Jobs. And it's special technology on how the CGI, and they did all that. And Disney didn't want to pay them anymore, so they said, we're just going to buy it. So they bought the technology from Pixar, and they got it, and then they said, does anyone know how to run any of this stuff? And nobody did. So they had to hire Steve Jobs back after he sold it to them for, I think, $4 billion to come in and run Pixar, that they had to pay him to do that because none of them knew how. So it is important to just not only have what the ability or what the technology does, but the people who can actually perform it. So you did the right thing and got the people, got that technology. You're going to expand the plant, $150 million in the next few years. You're a great success story. You're doing exactly, we talk about economic development all the time, about bringing in what? People are doing exactly what you guys are already doing right here. So we appreciate it. I give you guys the last word, and thanks for staying over with us and sharing this with us. I think the community is, the comments I'm seeing, people are very happy with what they're hearing. So we appreciate that, you guys out there listening. Anything else you'd like the public to know?
Well, just that we're here. We feel like we're good stewards. We are more than happy to sit down and with the county leaders and address any issues that might be out there. How do we mitigate both the impact to our citizens as well as the impact to us? And again, anytime we'll be able to sit down and go from there. So that's what the messages we'd like to leave with you guys. Is A, we do pay taxes. B, we're more than happy to communicate and go forward. C,
And you even left your phone number.
I left my phone number. So
Nick didn't give his. I noticed that.
no, because everybody has it. You're on the school board.
Different kind of phone call.
Yeah.
Thank you, but thank you, guys, for having us in today.
We're glad to do it, and so the commitment is there from Conestoga that they're willing to talk and discuss these issues with the county. They're willing to mitigate this out, spread it out over time. No one's expecting one big check. There's no need then to be expecting to raise all the money to pay one big check. It's just unnecessary. These guys are willing to work. They're Seward County citizens, residents, and we just appreciate you guys and your willingness to come on and share with everybody.
Anytime.
Yeah, and as you guys move forward, we want to have you back.
Yeah,
talk
correct.
about this expansion and Sapphire and all the great things you got going. So we'll get
We'd
you
love to
back on
share.
here.
It's our passion. It is our passion.
Bring pictures.
Pictures.
Bring pictures of what's going on out there.
Once we get going, we'd be happy
Yeah.
to.
I haven't done it yet, but the chamber always does a picture for their annual membership, and everyone who is a member has that. I want to get out there at night. I love the look of the plant at night, and I want to get out there with my camera on a tripod and get a picture of it at night. It's lit up well. It's a nice looking plant, and then submit that. They pick what they want over there, but that's the story of Chamber of Commerce. That's the story of economic development. That's the story of the life on the prairie of western Kansas, of why these people came and lived in mud houses and dug 88-foot wells to find water. And here we are providing ethanol, providing beef, serving the world, and you guys are a big part of that. So I just thank you guys for what you do.
You bet.
Thank you.
We're going to review the results of the election last night with you, and we're going to do that right after this.
Our loved ones leave an impression on us, and it's important to make sure their lasting impression honors the life they led. Since 1956, the Jones family has been providing lasting legacies to the lives of our loved ones, and that torch has now been passed to the Creekmore family. The commitment to compassion continues by offering the largest inventory in stock in the region with in-house custom craftsmanship that makes sure each piece is as unique as the life it represents. With a combined 82 years of experience and professional designers on staff, Jones Monument continues to provide affordable pricing and convenient turnaround times. They are ready to serve you from 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9:30 to noon on Saturday. Yes, our loved ones may have passed, but the memorial left behind stands as a testament to our never-ending love. The staff at Jones Monument understands that, and that's why providing monuments is more than a sideline at Jones Monument. That's all they do. Visit Jones Monument when you're ready to make an impression beyond a lifetime.
Fall off the bone ribs, dripping with our signature barbecue sauce. Tender pulled pork and brisket smoked to perfection. All served with family recipe home-style sides. It's all waiting for you at the Brick House Barbecue and Brew. Open 7 days a week, your barbecue appetite can be satisfied anytime for lunch or dinner. Brick House serves full dinners, combos, sandwiches, and take-home packs. Enjoy a variety of brews on tap or a mixed drink. Shaken, not stirred. Give your taste buds a treat at Brick House Barbecue and Brew, 24 East 2nd Street in Liberal. Like us on Facebook and see our full menu at brickhouselk.com. So there you have it. That was Nick Hatcher and Tom Willis, the chairman of the board and the CEO of Conestoga. They're willing to work with the county to spread out anything over time. There's no need to try to collect up and pay anything on day one or whenever this suit finally does have a settlement. And until there is a settlement, they're paying $3.4 million a year in taxes to the county which gets spread down to the other entities as well. But you know, what do you think about what you heard here today?
Well, I think it's kind of what some of us have thought for a long time, that, you know, there's a need for conversation, and they just, you know, I mean, today they basically said, yeah, we're willing to sit down and negotiate. And a lot of these things we've been told, you know, like, well, they want it all at once and all of that, I've heard for, you know, a few months from different folks that that's not true. And today we heard it, you know, directly from the horse's mouth, I guess you could say. You know, yeah, so I think, you know, let's get this thing settled. And, you know, just make a phone call and talk a little bit. You know, that's all it takes. I mean, that's, you know, that's how the thing went with DCP. You know, I thought about that several times during that conversation when they were here about, yeah, that's how it worked with DCP. We reached a settlement, an agreement, and the court wasn't involved. You know, we didn't have to wait on anybody to say this or that. We worked out a settlement, and I think that those two guys right there basically told us the same thing. So let's get on to it and quit running up the attorney bills and get with the program.
Yeah.
Make that phone call. You can look back and see what Tom's phone number was. Even if you need to, you can call him before he gets home.
Yeah, and you know, it's important to recognize, what do we want as a county? I mean, when you talk about economic development in the city, you can talk about restaurants and retail and all that, but out in the county, it's got to be industrial.
Yeah.
It's got to be something that works off of ag.
Well, if you're looking at a $150 million expansion, you know, what's that tell you? Well, that tells you, you know, they're going to be paying more taxes. You know,
Providing more jobs.
And they're going to provide more jobs. There's going to be more things. I don't know what all's involved in that cellulose plant, but, you know, they certainly do. And I think it's going to be a success because, like I said a little bit ago, that's the difference between, you know, local folks doing things and the government, because the government don't really care whether it's a success or not, because it's not their money they're spending. These guys are going to spend their own money, and it will be a success. And think about that, fueling airplanes, you know, right out of a plant 3 miles out of town. I mean, where else would that happen?
So that a plane flying in Europe can meet the regulations.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, so
Yeah.
it's the middle of America, the heartland of America, that's finding a solution so that the planes in Europe can fly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that these guys are us. That is what makes Seward County succeed.
Sure.
What they're doing. And so, do they have a right to question about the value? Same as you do. The same as anybody does. And that's all they're doing is just following through they're not saying that the county, did you hear them say the county's the bad guys? No.
No.
They did not
Never,
say that.
Not once. No.
Not once.
No.
You know, did you hear them say, you know, we don't want to be here? No. They said, not only do we want to be here.
Well, you knew they wanted to be here, otherwise they wouldn't be talking about a $150 million expansion.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
You know?
That's exactly the kind of partner we should be not just, you know, fussing with. We ought to say, how can we help make it happen?
Sure.
How do we help make this better? And look at Nick. I've seen Nick coaching traveling basketball teams. I coached his daughter in softball one year when she was little. You know, they're part of the community.
Sure.
He put himself out there to serve on the school board.
Yep.
Got elected to do that. He's out there volunteering in the community. You know, you look at Tom Willis trying to run that kind of plant, make these contacts. He just got back not too long ago from being in Washington, you know, helping answer questions and explain to them what, you know, some of this stuff. I don't know how else to say that this is what I thought this is what we're trying to turn our county into. This is what we want to have. You want to have factories coming in, building something that we can sell to somebody else somewhere else. Yeah. How is this not good for the county?
Well, I mean, it is. And then he turns around and says, you know, all of that 13.4 mil isn't ours. We're only about 2 of it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that opens up another whole ball of wax, which everybody's been trying to figure out, and we've realized that, you know, before they said it. But, you know, where did that other 12 mil come from?
And that's
You know, why
why
the need for that.
And that's why me and Dave Box have filed complaints with BOTA, because that's not what they told us.
Yeah.
And you heard today, they didn't need to tax a plugged nickel because these guys are going to be willing to work it out over time in the future.
Sure.
They, you know, so you heard it here. Make sure you share this with your friends and family so that they can see exactly what, and I'm not saying they said it.
You heard him.
It's the same thing when we talk about the county. We play their own words. We look at their own scripts.
That's right.
You know, their own posts out there. So just double check that. Make sure that you haven't lost battery power. Someone said that you're.
Well, that could be.
Well, you're
I don't
looking
know.
good.
Well, it says so on here, all right.
Yep, you're up in the yellow. That's where you're supposed to be. So he's doing good. So we had an election last night, and most of it's scrolling across the bottom. I couldn't put in the college because if I did, it would. It's too many words for the little scroller thing, and it'd go black. So, if you're curious about Seward County Community College Board of Trustees, Dustin Ormiston was the top vote getter with 1,071. Casey Mean was second with 983, and Brett Reese is the third vote getter. He came in at 803 votes. Kay Bertzloff was fourth with 743. So Brett Reese, congratulations. He'll be serving on the Seward County Community College Board of Trustees.
He's a newcomer to politics, basically.
Yeah, and I thought the other night, all 4 of these guys did a really good job of answering the questions at the forum.
Yep.
And so we appreciate everyone who is willing to put their name on the ballot. That's not easy to do, is it?
And there's signs in the yard.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
Yeah.
Just ask Riggs if you don't believe that.
Yeah. And just to reiterate that, Luz Riggs was the top vote getter for the USD 480 school board with 978 votes. Sarah Thompson comes in second with 686 votes. And Nick Hatcher, third, with 647 votes. So those 3 will serve. Let's see here. The next vote getter was Travis Martinez with 514 votes. Terry Tanking had 506, and Alan Brown had 482. So that wraps up your school USD 480. USD, well, I don't have enough votes. I really can't report 209 because it's such a small number in Seward County. I will look for 483 if you give me just a second, but I'll reiterate this. Liberal City Commission, Jeff Parsons was the top vote getter for the second time of his political career.
You didn't have to write his name in.
Didn't even have to write it in. He finished at the top with 969 votes. He sent me a message last night that, you know, he's on crutches right now, and he said he wouldn't be able to make it in. But he wanted to thank everybody and thank all those who ran. Jeanette Vasquez was second with 725 votes, and Matthew Landry was third, so he gets a 2-year term with 704 votes. So Jeanette and Jeff will get 4-year terms, and Matt Landry will get a 2-year term.
Matt's serving his 4 years, 2 at a time.
Yeah, he's still got his 4 years. Kismet City Council, Jason Jennings was the top vote getter with 43 votes. Ryan Kisner was second, so he'll serve because you vote for 2 with 38 votes, and Louise Winter was third with 16 votes. Rodney Lewis will continue as mayor of Kismet. And I don't know if I ever knew Kismet without Rod Lewis being mayor.
I think that's right. I don't remember who was mayor before that, but he's been there for quite some time.
And again, I can't really announce USD 43 numbers because USD 43 splits over 2 counties. So Seward County is only a part
Yeah.
of it.
Yep.
And so I don't want to mislead anyone by reading some numbers I'll have to get those combined. So I'll look for those and get those combined so that you know what you're looking at between both of those. Last night we had Luz Riggs and Jeanette Vasquez on as guests, and they talked about that. So if you want to hear from them, you can go back to last night's live election coverage and listen to what they had to say about being elected. But how do you wrap up the local and the half-cent sales tax? You see it on the screen. That went down 75 basically to 25%. 1,230 said no to the half-cent sales tax proposed by the county, and 427 said yes. So what's your thoughts on the election results?
Well, they are what they are. Folks got out. Not, I mean, it was a low voter turnout. I think it was, I don't know, what do you say, about 14%. I think.
14.98.
Yeah, 14, almost 15. But anyway, and that's kind of standard. I think, over the years we've talked about that, and it runs around 16%. Sometimes in presidential election years it runs a little bit more than that, but usually around 16%. So anyway, but yeah, I think, everybody that voted, went out and did it, and thanks to them for doing their civic duty. And so we'll go from here, and I'm sure those folks that got elected are tickled pink, and so congratulations to all of them.
Sure. And that gets the election in. Just going back to listening to Tom and Nick, I mean, do you not hear the just love of home?
Yeah.
When you listen to them
Yeah.
talk about, coming out here, thought I'd be here 5 years, go back to Idaho. I'm 20 years and I'm still here. And Nick is lifelong and loves this town. He graduated here. His family's here. He and Lisa, continued their family and
Yep.
just great people to have in
Yeah.
our community.
Well, I think I hope that folks enjoyed listening to them, what they do out there, what they make, a little bit about future plans, and you talk about an economic boom well, I was thinking, when they were talking, they didn't mention it, but, as they have developed that plant out there and tried to get more alcohol out of each bushel of corn, I think there has been an effort on the side of these corn developers, the seed developers, to develop seed that grows more starch in these kernels, so they can realize more ethanol out of it. And I can't remember what the name of the brand is, but I know it became very popular in the last few years. If you're going to sell that your corn products to the plant over there, a lot of them planted this variety that was developed to produce more starch. So, it's you talk about the effects. It's not only that, but it's in these breeders and the different plants and that kind of thing too. So, no doubt it's having effect and will continue to worldwide. From anything from exporting that ethanol to all of the countries, that Tom mentioned, and now then they're looking into this airplane fuel. And gosh, you talk about going worldwide. You can go worldwide in a day with that stuff. Fill up their tank and away they go. And who knows where they'll use that. And and they might have to ship it, other places as well. So they can fuel up there and fly back. I don't know, but that's a huge industry. And a potential of so much more. And you know, like this drone thing that's coming here. I'm pretty excited about what that could turn out to be in the future. You know, it might be small right now, but I think that, you know, that technology it's developed. I think I don't know exactly what they're going to do here, but they're planning on expanding that plant. And you know, the drone technology nowadays in almost any industry. You know, I mean, they even use that in the local fire department. You know, when they've got a fire, they can fly that drone over there and see, you know, where the hot spots are or what needs to be here, what needs to be there. You know, so I know in the rural fire department, I've been up there a time or two, and they've got a room set up, and it's got multiple screens in it, and they're looking at, you know, a fire that they just got through, you know, taken care of, and they've got pictures of that drone flying over there, and you know, looking to see how they could have done things better, or you know, secure the safety zone more, or you know, whatever they look for. And there's multiple screens in that one room. It's kind of like, well, it's kind of like surround sound, only it's surround viewing. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, that drone industry, that could turn out to be a huge thing. And also, I think, you know, once those guys get here and get settled and see what, you know, rural farm life's, rural life's worth, like, you know, they might certainly write back home and make a few phone calls and say, you guys need to think about coming out here. And so, you know, I think there's all kinds of good things going on.
So Debbie asked the question, did the county know that negotiations were a possibility and that it didn't have to be paid all at once? If so, would that mean that the county used this as an excuse to get money for other unknown reasons? You'd have to ask them, Debbie, but I would say this. If it were my job to put the budget together and I knew I had this thing hanging out there, I would have picked up the phone and said, hey guys, we're working on our budget. We don't know what this what's your expectations going to be once we get a number here? Sure. And I would have found out if they would have said, we'll work with you guys, we know that. Then I would have told the commissioners, hey, I talked with these guys. They're not expecting this is going to have to be paid all at once. They're willing to spread this out over time. So as you're budgeting, you might want to be aware of that. It's your guys' call, but I just want you to know I reached out to them and this is what they said. Now, if I'm a commissioner and the budget's brought to me and this big thing is, well, this could be the worst case scenario, then I would say, you know what, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call.
Sure. I'm
going to ask them, say, hey, this could be a real burden on our budget and on the taxpayers of Seward County if we had to swallow this all at once. What's your guys' expectations of this? What can we do here? And if they would have said, just like they said right here, of course we're not going to expect it all at once. That's not fair. That's not the right thing to do. Of course we'll be willing to work on spend that out of time. Then I would have went back to my board and I would have said, hey, I reached out to these guys to find out what they would be expecting. You know, and I think that's responsible leadership.
Sure. Well, I think another thing that you consider in that budget is how much money are we going to have to allocate to continue attorneys' fees, you know, which is more taxpayer money, you know, and right now it's last I seen anyway, it was $520,000, you know, over $500,000. But the sooner you can, you know, settle it, you know, it's like having any kind of a debt. The sooner you can settle it, the better it is. And if you can work it out certainly over a period of years, you know, they know, and they said right here, you know, it's not that high and it's not that low. It's somewhere in the middle. Well, all right, how are you going to resolve that? Well, you're going to resolve that by sitting down at a table and saying, okay, what do you guys think? You know, forget that, your appraisal, forget our appraisal. Where do we land in the middle? And if that's suitable, then that's when the attorney gets involved and tell them to write up the agreement. Here's what they agreed on, we agreed on, all of that. And, to me, it's really not a difficult process. I mean, just arriving at a number somewhere in there, and then you work out the payment schedule, and go from there. Get that off of your plate as soon as possible.
And if you can't work out a number, if you just say, look, your number's too high, and they say, well, your number's too low, then you say, okay, we'll just that's what the Board of Tax Appeals is for. We can't reach an agreement, so let's go to the Board of Tax Appeals. And then the Board of Tax Appeals gives a ruling and say, that's not a court binding decision. We still want to see what a court would say, so you take it to district court. And that's part of the process.
Yeah.
That is the way the process works. That's what the law says you can do.
Yeah.
I can do it. You can do it. Anybody can do it. Now, you don't get to say, well, okay, we won't collect any taxes till the ruling. No, they're paying every penny at the highest number.
Yeah. Well, while you're waiting on the court to do that, actually what you're doing is letting somebody else decide your fate. They're going to somebody else. You're not even involved in the process. You've turned it over to somebody else saying, you go figure it out.
Well, the county is involved in that they've hired lawyers to go and do this, spend over $500,000 so far, and I bet you Conestoga, we didn't ask them, but I bet you they've spent.
Why, they've spent a bunch.
Yeah. And, but again, were they vindictive about that? Did they say, the county, we want to stick to those guys. They've been kind of mean. They made us look like the bad guys. No, they said, we're working with the county. We want to work with the county.
Yeah.
We support the county. They're, I'd have to say they're probably better than I would be in that position, and that they have a bigger view for the county and for their business, and that it's going to benefit all of us at the end.
Well, somebody on the commission has to have an idea of what they would settle for. It might not be every last one of them, but somebody has some kind of an idea, or you at least have to say it's somewhere in the middle between this and this, and let's use that as a starting point. It might be a little more right, or it might be a little more left, but here's kind of the target I'm willing to shoot for. And, but just to do nothing is, and wait on somebody else to decide for you, I never did feel that was a good thing. I always kind of wanted to be involved in making my own decisions, but maybe not so much nowadays. I don't know.
Well, and Steve says, I always figured Conestoga would be a good corporate or cooperative county resident. Tom and Nick just provided assurance of that. Very good message to hear. Thank you.
There you go.
And, if we bring an end to this, Kayla says, and we stop lining the attorney's pockets, and
that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're paying for
it. Calvin says, so this makes it very clear that the lack of communication is totally the commission's lack of willingness to get this worked out. This made it totally clear. Thank you, gentlemen, for doing that. So we do thank Tom and Nick for coming in and sharing that. There's a lot of thank yous. Great point. Appreciate Conestoga. Thank you for the information, Conestoga. There are still some concerns here. This county has been anything but transparent and has fed us lies after lies. They need to do whatever is necessary to fix this. This is Debbie Ortiz. If they can't fix it for the next taxing period, then they need to give credits in the future tax years. Changes are needed in county commission and in administration. And that's something that the voters are going to have to decide.
Yep.
We shared yesterday a recap of their meeting and statements made and contradictory statements made about whether we have an advisor, whether we don't have an advisor, whether we have
well, if you had an honest and real advisor, I'm pretty sure he would advise you to go to the table and settle this. Just go to the table and try to settle it. You don't have to settle it, but you know, any financial advisor, when you had something like this, I'm pretty sure that they would tell you to go try to negotiate this and don't let somebody else decide for you. You need to be involved in that. And the best way to do that is sit down at the table and work it out. And if it takes a what do you call those, mediator, use a mediator. I mean, I'd kind of forgot about that, but I know ex-Commissioner McCaffrey reminded me of that yeah, we did use a mediator in settling the DCP. But we would, we'd basically tell him where we were at and, we wanted to do this, and they'd come back and say, well, but a mediator, help do that. So you don't have to do it by yourself. You can get a mediator involved, but you also could do it yourself. You could say, okay, here's the number. Here's the middle number. Just take the middle number.
But let's go back how all this started. This all got started. You had 3 new commissioners come on. They were new. If I was a new commissioner and I inherited something that was a carryover, I'd say, I wonder if there can be a different approach. Whatever approach was working didn't work. Maybe we ought to do something different. Maybe I ought to just reach back out to them and see where we're at on this.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. I'm hoping, Todd's been the new guy now. Maybe he was willing to do that. Maybe the new guy that comes in and says, hey, I'm new. Maybe will look at me and say, I'm not tied to any of this. Maybe I can talk to him. Just to reach out. But what I remember at the beginning of this budget was the adversarial approach like that the taxing trio took, and you can look at what Tammy, this was the previous commission's fault. And so now we have to tax everyone to fix it. That wasn't the only solution on the table. But that's where they went immediately was, I'm going to try to sell to the public that it was the previous commissions that messed this up, and now that's why they have to pay taxes. That was the wrong narrative. The previous commission negotiated a deal with the taxpayer. They solved the problem.
Sure.
This is something, even if you inherit it, then you say, what can we do instead of, we're just going to tax our way out of this? That's completely unnecessary. You just heard it today. What did we hear? We'll work this over time. We don't want to hurt the county. We are the county. The county's our home too.
Yeah.
They pay taxes too. We always hear, well, the staff pays taxes. Well, these guys pay a ton of taxes.
Yeah.
They understand that.
Well,
and they know that they're going to pay taxes.
They pay personal, too.
Yeah.
I mean, their home taxes is going to go up just like everybody else's.
And Nick runs a farm, and you think that he's not affected by taxes?
Oh yeah, big time.
Of course he is, but he also serves on a school board. And how's the school board funded?
Do that.
And so, and what did the school board do but lower the mill this year? So,
Well, if you hadn't have funded $520,000 to attorneys, that money could have been split out between, and everybody got $150,000 to $200,000 more. Maybe another mill in their budget that, just kind of depending on how it was. But would we rather fund the attorneys to, well, I don't know, to support the highest maximum level and no negotiation, or would you rather use that money and use it locally for something worthwhile? I just don't understand why they can't get together and talk.
Yeah, and that's all we've been trying to push.
Yeah, from day one. That's right.
Is get together. Yep. And Tom Willis just provided his phone number live on.
That's right.
On this.
So
feed.
any of you commissioners out there, look back and get that phone number and give him a call. That'll be your challenge for the day, just to see if you can do that. And say, maybe, let's figure out a time that we can sit down with, either 2 or 3 of the commissioners, or, one maybe, or whatever it takes.
But the one thing they know right now is they don't need to raise $1 million on this thing right now.
No.
They do not need to do that.
No.
There is absolutely no reason to increase taxes and attribute it to this case. Zero reason to do that by what these guys just told us today.
Yeah. There you go.
So whatever taxes that they're raising on you, it has nothing to do with Conestoga, because Conestoga just said, we'll work with you over time. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be here. They're going to work with the county on additional projects, on expansion, $150 million expansion. Creating jet fuel. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is.
And that's exactly what we want. We don't want to stifle that. We don't want to kill that. We want to encourage that.
I think it'd be interesting to watch the success of it.
Exactly. So let's just hope that, and again, I'm not playing Monday morning quarterback here. I said it from the beginning. Let's get together.
Yeah.
Let's sit down. And they would have heard that. Why don't they say, let's have a work session and visit with Conestoga, and let them just sit across the table instead of your lawyer should contact our lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. That ain't a good plan at all, if that's what their plan is.
Well, that's what they put out. They
Yeah.
put that out on social media.
Yeah, but that's absolutely not a good plan at all.
And it's terrible PR.
Well, it's failure. I mean, because right now, apparently, there's no negotiations going on. So it's all failed to this point anyway. So just make a phone call and say, hey, let's set a time that we can get together here and, talk things over. And it might not resolve anything, but at least you can say you were involved in trying to settle it.
Yeah. I mean, what do we elect people for?
I'm not sure.
I mean, really, what do you elect them for if not to be creative, innovative at addressing the challenges? If we're just there to rubber stamp what other people are telling you, then why are you there? The whole purpose is to be there because you, in some way, you're supposed to have exhibited some leadership qualities and the ability to bring people together and form coalitions and have some accomplishments. Yeah. This is your chance to shine. This isn't a chance to cower back or to dig in and we're right and we're just going to stand on that. Show me anyone who's ever done that's turned out good.
I don't remember that happening very many times at all.
But when people build relationships and build coalitions, it's one thing even Jeanette said last night, for everybody. If you have a concern, come see me, come talk to me. Anybody and everybody.
Yep.
That's the kind of leadership we have to have. Leadership that isn't, I'm just representing this group, or I'm just representing that group, or I'm only looking out for, I'm only going to look out for what's best for the staff, or I'm only going to look out what's best for the taxpayer. No, you have to work it all. What's best for the taxpayer and the staff.
Well,
what's best for everybody.
Take what's going on right now. Who is that good for? Who is that good for? Is that good for Conestoga? No. Is that good for, the taxpayers? No. Is that good for the county commission? No. It's not a good thing. And if it's not, then you need to figure out, how to change it. And I think it all starts with that phone call today.
Yeah, and get together. And look, If we made the county commission look like bad guys, all we're doing is sharing what they've said or what they've done.
Yeah.
If you feel like that makes you look like bad guys, maybe you ought to think about that. I don't want it to be like that. I don't want them to be the bad guys. We as the taxpayers need them. If we're going to improve our county, if we're going to move forward, it's not going to be with 14 mil increases.
No, that probably will never go away.
It
will.
will.
That's I keep hearing that, but will it?
No, it will
You know?
one of two ways. Either we get a favorable ruling from BOTA, that can do it.
Yeah.
And after you hear what they shared today, that's just further evidence that the county did not do their due diligence on this. They never reached out in a way that they could have talked to the taxpayers and said, hey, we do have this hanging. Instead of using it as a fear tactic, they could have used that to say, look, we have this hanging out there, but I called them, and they're willing to spread this out over time. No one was willing to make that call.
Well, I think I heard at one of the commission meetings it's a one-time payment.
That's the worst case scenario. We're going to collect it all so we can make a one-time payment.
Yeah.
They just told us, we're not expecting that. We're willing to spread this out over time.
You know, and I've been told 2 or 3 times by different individuals that, no, they're willing. Conestoga was willing to spread it out over time. And that was just, wandering around town. And I run across some folks that, had a pretty good handle on things, and they told me, said, no, that's not a one-time payment, not a one-time at all. We're willing to work with them. And, I felt, considering who those individuals were, that they knew.
So in this vacuum of leadership that we have over there, I would encourage even Mary Rose, Stacia Long, anybody else, your department head, you can pick up the phone even if you want to. If the people who are supposed to doing it aren't doing it, somebody needed to do it. And so I'm just glad we were able to get them on here today so that they can make their case, because they have been shut out of this public process, and today they went public. And they said, of course we love our county. Of course this is home. Of course we're going to work with our people to mitigate this out. Once we know what the value is, we know what the number is, we're going to work with everybody.
Well, it's an advantage to everybody to get this settled. And I don't know what else to say other than, it just would be so easy that, and why hasn't it been done?
Yeah. So I wonder if the commission is going to fall into, well, you can't trust that. Do you trust what you just heard here today?
Well, when you're talking to the CEO and the president of the board, I don't think they came in here just to make up something.
No. They're going to put their reputation out there and run over that? No. You can trust it.
Yep.
You can trust it. And if you say, well, let's get it in writing, well, then go visit with them and get it written up.
But you got to meet with them first.
Yeah. My gosh, talk to them. They are good guys. They are good guys. Yep. And I'm so glad that they were willing to come on and share that with you. And so now you know. And the public knows. And we'll keep moving forward. We'll keep covering it. We'll keep sharing.
They might even come back and see us again.
Yeah.
Which is that was fun, really. I enjoyed listening to them and what the plans are, and all of that kind of stuff. And even if you take the tax thing out of it, it was interesting to know what they're doing out there, where they're shipping that stuff. All of that is, I thought was very interesting.
And
of course, I'm an old farmer, because I kind of like some of that stuff. I used to back in the good old days, I used to have a little still, and I made some of that kind of, so I understand, the process.
I was going to ask if you ever did some corn manufacturing, value added to your corn.
Yeah, we had a little old mixing tank and a still that we set up in the shed. I forgot where I bought that thing from, but anyway, it's really not that difficult of a process. We ground we used wheat, we tried milo, we tried corn, you know, anything with starch in it, and then you grind that, and then you dump it in this mixing tank and put a little yeast in it, and it ferments. And you know, after, oh, I don't know, some of that, I think it took a couple of days. We'd run a hose out of that mixing tank down into just a bucket of water, and that CO2 would bubble off of that thing. Of course, he said they capture theirs, but you know, we just let it bubble off, and when it quit bubbling off, well, then you take that grain out of that tank, and it's really wet. You know, you got a lot of water in there with it, but it's really wet. And then we'd run it over a screen and drain out what we could, and you know, kind of compress it a little bit. Didn't get near out of what we should have, but anyway, and then you put it in the still and light a fire under it, and as soon as it gets up about, I think it's 172 degrees, alcohol will boil or evaporate quicker than water. And I think it's about 172 degrees. I'm not sure that's the number, but anyway, and then that alcohol went off of there, you know, and ended up in the jug. And you know, we burned some of that in the little old tractor. We had a little tractor out there that we cleaned out the hog pens with, and we'd put that in the gas tank, and sometimes mix it with a little gas and sometimes not. But anyway, when you was talking about it, or one of them mentioned that engine running out there, you know, there was a world of difference in those hog houses. You could get that tractor in there, and if you had to do a little shovel work in the corners, you know, you kind of enjoyed smelling that exhaust off of that. But if it was gas, it'd run you out of there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, I mean, once you understand the process of how that works, they're just doing it in multi-millions larger process. But you know, I've always been interested in that. I think, you know, Oliver Brown, some of you out there probably remember Oliver Brown, but he was a great dreamer in establishing an ethanol plant in Liberal. He never got it done, but that was his, you know, lifetime work, I think, was getting an ethanol plant, you know, in Seward County. And I think he passed away before they, you know, got this one going. But you know, I thought about him when they were talking about that. And old Oliver, he was a big dreamer, and you know, ethanol.
Well, I believe that Conestoga is in Todd Stanton's district.
Yeah, I think so.
So, because he represents Kismet, and it's not far from Kismet, right? So, I think anything on the north side of 54. So, Todd should be the guy that's doing this, because it's his constituency.
Well.
It's his territory. And so, Todd, you should be visiting with those guys and taking that information back to the commission, because it's your backyard.
Yeah.
And go visit with them and take that back and you know, let them know. And then, you know, that should affect policy moving forward. But it's just another reason, and like I say, we're making our case to BOTA. That's just more evidence today of the breakdown of these guys doing their due diligence of communicating with the taxpayers on, and that's why you got to get out building. And I just want to say to Commissioner Fuller, you know, when she said, because I saw someone put up this statement about that came from the horse's mouth. You know, you keep telling people to go to the horse's mouth. Well, why didn't you go to Conestoga? Why didn't you go say, you know what, I want to go talk with those guys?
Those commissioners are the horse's mouth, because they decide. They vote and they decide. They make the decisions.
So why didn't you do that? You know, Tammy, who I thought was, and Scott, and Steve, they're all, you know, supposed to be pro-business, pro-growth people. You know, no one could pick up the phone and check with these guys to say, hey, we don't know what the settlement's going to be, but we know we're going to owe you something. Is there some way we can get together on what the repayment could be?
Yeah.
And just be human beings.
Well, I think any one of those five could could pick up the phone and make a phone call to Tom and say, okay, let's figure out something here. At least begin, the conversation. Let's arrive at a number or, a time frame or, however you want to do it.
I think you heard right
Lay out
here.
a plan.
They're not the holdup.
No, and lay out a plan and take it to the next commissioner meeting or call a special meeting and say, okay, guys, here's an offer. Where do we go from here? I mean, it's not complicated.
And I think if Todd's had a conversation or can have a conversation, he needs to do that in open session.
Sure.
He needs to say, hey, I have talked with them, and here's what they're willing to do.
There you go.
I mean, that should be so that everyone knows if there's been an effort made, number one, and number two, that none of this stuff is backdoor dealings, and if someone has a problem with it, then let them bring it out in public. I can tell you the word I don't want to hear from Seward County right now is the word transparency from everything we've found. That certainly is out the window. But, let's maybe, if you really truly want to try to rebuild this thing, then it starts today. Show some leadership, some courage, and then maybe even a little humility to say, okay, we saw you today. We saw what you've said on the morning show. Where can we go from here? And just say, okay.
The door's wide open.
Would you guys be willing to do 3, 4, 5 years? When we get to this, are you willing to do it on future credits on taxes that you owe down the road? And we just credit that it's prepaid. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Sure.
That will mitigate this and not cause not one mill, to be affected by the other taxpayers.
Yeah. There you go.
It is not rocket science.
No,
It's
it
science.
lasts a long ways.
But it's not rocket science.
It's called mathematics.
Well, I hope that cooler heads prevail, and just big thank you to those guys to come in here and share
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
You
It was
know,
a good morning.
they could have said, no, we'll just wait and go for the whole ball of wax because that's where they put us.
Well, from the very start, even before we ever started the show, they already told us that. We're willing to string this out. And then once we went live, they said the same thing. We're willing to string this out. So there you have it. It's documented.
And it's out there for the world to see. So we thank them, and we don't want to leave you today without giving you your squeaky clean car wash weather report. And I tell you what, it's been a pretty good week so far.
That's right. And this is only, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Well, get ready.
So today's going to be sunny with a high near 64. North-northeast wind 8 to 18 miles per hour with gusts as high as 28 miles per hour. Tonight clear with a low around 35. East wind 6 to 8 miles per hour becoming south after midnight. Looking ahead to the rest of your week, Thursday a high of 75. Friday 66. Game day Friday, don't forget, home playoff game right here at Redskin Field. Saturday 61. Sunday 51. Monday 60. And Veterans Day Tuesday 71 degrees. That's your weather outlook, and that's the news and views you can use on the high plains. Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Thank you for so many people tuning in today. I'm really humbled by that. We appreciate it.
Yep.
You make this show possible by tuning in and watching it. We'll be back with you in the morning at 7:30. Until then, this Road Leader in Times with Jim Rice saying when you live in Liberal,
Or Fowler, Kansas.
there's no place like home. Have a great day, everybody.